the reason why we do this this webinar every week, obviously, is to bring you guys valuable content. We appreciate your input. So if there is ever a subject or a topic, something you like for us to cover, let us know. Because certainly, if you're looking for that information, I promise you, there's other people out there that are looking for the same information as well. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Joe Johnson. I'm going to be your host today with Agency Director Jimmy Hernandez, and we'll go ahead and get the show on the road. First thing I want to cover, there's a lot of, our agency is continuously growing. We're adding new recruits all over the country. I see a lot of new names on the webinar, so I appreciate you guys certainly plugging in. Just some little housekeeping things, especially for new people. If you haven't ordered your new agent starter kit, go ahead and get this ordered. Get with me, get with your manager if you're not sure how to order or what you should order. But if you're going to be going out and making presentations, you've got to be prepared. You've got to look like a professional. So make sure you got those business cards, you got your ID badge, flip chart, folders, delivery notices. You've got to have all the proper tools to go out there and be successful. A lot of times a client may not do business with you because you don't have the sales material. Maybe they're being nice, but I know agents that have gone out and make presentations, they don't even take brochures with them. I mean, they don't even have business cards. I mean, you can't be a professional without the basic tools. You can pick up the economy starter kit for under $100. It's like 99 bucks. It'll get you everything you need to go out there and get started. So make sure you get that ordered as soon as possible. Well, again, if you need help, let me know. Now, last week, if you were on the call, maybe you weren't, but if you remember, we did probably close to about an hour presentation on the Eagle Premier Series, and Jimmy had a question about a couple of things. I didn't have the answers to it. One was about a pacemaker. Oh, Jimmy, and the other question you had, remember, I forgot to write this down. You had asked me if you're doing an e-application, are they required to have an email address? Okay, so the answer to your question is no. You can do as long as you're doing the electronic application face-to-face, you do not need an email address for your client. They only need an email if you're doing electronic signature or email signature. If you're not face-to-face, or maybe you were there and you weren't prepared, and you're gonna email them the information. Then, of course, all participants need their own email address for that. But the reason why we're going to cover Eagle Premier just real quick, I'm going to cover some things and make some corrections on some things that we covered last week that I found out not necessarily to be true. Okay, so one thing I want to do is I want to cover question 9. Let me get a pen here real quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll use this. All right, question number 9 is the one we want to cover. And this says, in the past 12 months, have you been diagnosed, treated, tested positive, been given medication advice, or prescribed medication by a licensed member of the medical profession for, then it gives this whole list of things on here. Angioplasty, which is the balloon procedure, stent placement, heart bypass surgery, goes on to say stroke, heart attack, heart valve disease, coronary disease, angina, which is chest pain, or heart disorder. Heart disorder, in my opinion, is rather ambiguous, excluding hypertension, which is high blood pressure. So initially, when I made the call, I had talked to someone from Americo and specifically asked about AFib or an irregular heartbeat, and I was kind of led to believe that, well, as long as it's not on the application, they should be okay. But I went on to find out that it's not okay. Okay, so this is where we're gonna kind of make some corrections here. The other thing that was on the form earlier that I did not get right, that I want to make a correction on, Let me just go back here, see if I can find it. It was about so the last 24 months. Give me 1 second, I'll find it. Okay, so it's question 4B. It was congestive heart failure, defibrillator placement, cardiomyopathy. So when I initially read this, I went over it too fast, and I read defibrillator and then placement, and I kind of in my head I was thinking pacemaker, okay? But that's not the case in this situation, okay? So I'm going to pull up the cheat sheet real quick and go over a couple of things. So I've corrected this. So if you want to get a copy, a corrected copy, I can get it out to you. So here for the irregular heartbeat for Americo, I've got it listed as graded. So if your client is taking medication for irregular heartbeat, that to Americo is considered a heart disorder, it's going to be a graded policy. Okay, don't send it in. If it's a pacemaker implant, and as long as the pacemaker implant was over a year ago, and provided they're not taking additional medication for heart disorder other than high blood pressure, they're going to be okay. The ironic thing is that a pacemaker is used to control an irregular heartbeat, but I guess they're considering that as maintenance and not treatment. What I've come to find out is that for the most part, it seems like Americo considers a lot of medications. If you're taking medication, they consider that to be treatment and not maintenance. The other thing that we talked about on Americo was blood thinners. Okay, blood thinners. So I'm a little bit still in the gray area when I was emailing back and forth with the underwriter and kind of gave the proposal. I said, listen, I got a client. They had a heart attack or stroke, 2 or 3 years ago, but they're prescribed blood thinners as a maintenance. Is this going to be okay, or you can consider blood thinners as treatment? It was a little bit of a gray area. Potentially, they will approve it, but again, with the Americo application, it's really not up to the underwriter. It's running on an algorithm, so it really kind of probably depends on what other medications they're taking and a combination. It's kind of a point system. So if you got a client that is taking blood thinners and they're on a bunch of other medications, I don't know. I mean, the chances are, my feeling is probably going to be decline. I would probably go with, typically when I have clients that they're on warfarin or some of the other Coumadin or the, blood thinners, I typically just go Transamerica because I know Transamerica is very blood thinner friendly. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of make that clarification on the Americo situation from last week. Just make some clarifications. Jimmy, any comments or anything, any other questions that you may have on that? Oh, it looks like okay.
I'm sorry, I was muted. No, you're good, Joe.
Okay, I thought I had muted you out there for a second. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and move on. And if you guys do have questions about Americo, just contact me. Want to kind of go over some lead ordering options, especially for those that are new. Let you know what we can do as far as getting leads ordered for you. We've got the direct mail leads, which is our standard of direct mail, our standard and final expense. Kind of direct mail has always been the gold standard, still is the gold standard of final expense. I feel that you're going to get overall the best results on direct mail, but we also have telemarketed leads and Facebook leads as well, which are great supplemental leads. The great thing about telemarketing and Facebook leads is that they're great fill-in leads. And one of the reasons why agents order them is because you can get them very, very quickly. Typically with direct mail, if you're ordering fresh direct mail, you got 3-4 week turnaround from when the mail's dropped before your leads start coming back in. Well, what are you going to do in between time? Well, yes, you can work if there's overflows, A minuses, and B leads. You can certainly work those, but if you're looking for some fresh leads, hot off the press, man, take a look at the telemarketing leads, take a look at the Facebook leads, and we can work with you one-on-one and give you some tips on prospecting and how to maximize your lead orders on the telemarketing leads and the Facebook leads. Just as a tip and I was just talking to an agent yesterday about telemarketing leads. I'm just going to tell you this. If you order telemarketing leads, do not call them to try to book an appointment. Door knock them. I promise you it works. Door knock them, introduce yourself, play the recording. When you get telemarketing leads, you get the recording. You get a WAV file with the client's voice. Man, when you knock on the door and you introduce yourself, say, hey, hi, Mary, Joe Johnson, Senior Benefits here in DuPage County. You had spoken to Mary in our office the other day. She had told you I would be contacting you. I'm just required to play this recording for you, so I can verify who I am. And you have it all propped. You push play, and the client can hear in their own words, yes, I would like a quote for 10,000. Yeah, 10,000 would be fine. How much is that? And again, Mrs. Smith, you did say it was okay for Joe Johnson to contact you about life insurance for final expenses. Yes, it is. So once you're there, Mary, I'm here to give the information. Take me a couple of minutes to give you your free quote, and I'll get out of your hair, and you're in. So I promise you, if you do that versus trying to call these leads, you will have a much higher success rate. Same thing with Facebook. I know there's agents that are ordering Facebook leads and they're not door knocking them, missing the boat. Take it to the street, door knock these leads, as well as calling them on the phone, for sure. And then I just want to talk a little bit about prospecting in general. This is not going to be a prospecting call necessarily on how to prospect. We've covered those things. But here's what I'm going to tell you in my heart of hearts is that I feel that most agents that are not succeeding at the level that they want to succeed, it's because their daily prospecting habits are suspect. In other words, they're not prospecting enough. And I've said this a million times. I'm going to say it again. Most agents underestimate the amount of prospecting that's required to turn a lead into an appointment. They just simply don't prospect enough. It's not because they're lacking skills. It's not because they are lacking personality. They simply just don't prospect enough, meaning they're not making enough phone calls. They're not out on the street door knocking. When I'm running business full time, guys, I promise you, man, I'm out on the road all the time because nothing good happens in your house. And I'll take and we'll show you, and Jimmy's going to show you a way to organize your leads here in a minute. But man, when you're out running business, take your leads with you, and you can. That's the beauty of having the leads. And I print all my leads out. I don't do it digitally. I have every lead printed, and I have my leads with me all the time. So anywhere, I can have my leads with me, and I'll prospect in the car. I'll pull over to the side of the road and I'll go through leads, especially when I'm in a certain zip code. I'll door knock those leads. I'll call those leads. Prospecting. You want to be a superstar producer? First, you got to be a superstar prospector. I promise you, it will change. If you change your prospecting habits, you will change your income. You will change your life simply by increasing the amount that you're prospecting. I can't hammer that home hard enough. Sales funnel, we cover this all the time. Sales funnel, you got to have, obviously, first thing that goes into the sales funnels are the leads. Jimmy and I've said it a million times, man. If you don't have enough lead inventory, you're out of business. But the one thing that is in this crack right here, and that it's in between leads and appointments, right in here, if there could be like a little that little crevice right there, that crevice is prospecting, 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 prospecting. I could hammer it home. I could say it 1,000 times. It wouldn't be enough to emphasize the importance of prospecting. And I promise you, most of you, if you're not tracking your prospecting, you're fooling yourself. If you're not keeping track of your dials, if you're not keeping track of your door knocks, if you're not keeping track of how many scripts you read, so it's not just keeping track of. So when you're tracking those numbers, it's not just tracking how many phone calls you made. How many phone calls did you make, and how many scripts, how many appointments? When you're door knocking, how many actual physical doors did you door knock? How many scripts did you do at the door? How many appointments did you set? That's tracking those prospecting numbers. And I promise you, if you're not tracking those numbers, you're fooling yourself. Because you're gonna realize that you're not working as hard as what you should be. I promise you. Um, Grant Cardone says, "Man, are you willing to do whatever it takes?" And that's the key to, I think, to succeed not only in this business but in any business. Man, are you willing to do whatever it takes? If you got to make 300 phone calls a week and you got to door knock 100 doors, are you willing to do it? Are you willing to do whatever it takes, man? You can't just grind on the days that you feel good. You got to grind every single day. You got to develop, I promise you got to develop good prospecting habits. You show me a good agent, you show me an agent that's on the leaderboard consistently every week. Not only are they ordering leads every week, but they also have consistent prospecting habits. Um, you guys may know who this chubby guy is, Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth says it's hard to beat a person that never gives up. And that's the person you got to be. You got to be the person that never gives up. That you keep those leads and you keep prospecting them. I'm telling you, man, there's been A leads that I've had that it took me a year, 6 months to a year to sell them. Not because I kept going back. Now I'll just tell you this, if a lead's dead, okay, it's dead. I'm not going back to get it. I'm talking about leads that you haven't been able to make contact on. And that's what I think happens sometimes, that agents will get leads. They'll get a lead that week. They can't make contact with them. They try the second week, and then they just kind of give up on them. Why? I don't know. Maybe they're not organized. Maybe they don't know how to put that into a tickler file. But you got to keep those leads. You got to keep prospecting those same leads over and over. You just never know. A lead is not dead until it's dead, until you have closure to it, until the client tells you they're not interested, they're not buying, never call me again. Okay? And with that, Jimmy, I'm trying to set you up here, buddy. With that, we're going to flip into the tip of the week, and I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy, and then Jimmy's going to cover with you what the tip of the week that he's prepared for you. All right, Jimmy, it's all yours, sir.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Let's just go ahead and get started. So I want to show you about how to get organized to help you, be a good producer. So let's start with the first slide there, Joe. And this is a picture of my Padfolio. It closes with a zipper. And so a lot of new agents ask me, how do I, what do I take in when I do a presentation? How do I do that? So this is how I do it. If you see there on the right, I have tabs for each carrier. And I also have two applications. These are only final expense, two final expense applications, and the corresponding brochure. So you're only able to see the first brochure there, right? But if you flip that tab to Transamerica, you'd see one for Transamerica as well, and so on and so forth. So I keep 2 apps for every carrier because if I have a couple and I'm gonna write them both up, I want to be able to, pull both apps out without having to, go to my car. Now, on the left side, you can see the little binder there. That's the flip chart presentation. So I keep my flip chart presentation in there. Behind that, you really can't see it, but I have some other documents. One, I'll just tell you real quick, I do also keep a simplified issue Mutual of Omaha application. I keep a children's whole life app, an accidental app, in the Transamerica 0 to 44 app in there. So just in case I, need to switch it up, I have those apps available. And then also what I keep in there, Joe, if you can go to the next slide, I keep some documents just for reference. So there's the cheat sheet for common health issues. I keep that laminated. I also have the build charts laminated. That first one is for Liberty Bankers, and the one to the right is for Mutual of Omaha. So a lot of people, this might be the first time you ever heard of a build chart. Those two carriers have a height and weight chart. That's what a build chart is. And so you can simply look at the height and weight, and it'll tell you what they qualify for. So if you go with somebody, let's say that's 5'10", they can go up to 320 pounds, and they will be preferred. And then, hold on one second, my cord broke. Oh.
There you go, guys. If you see here, as an example, Liberty Bankers, like Jimmy was saying, 5'10", 320. That's pretty heavy. Like I'm 5'9", about 200. I mean, I could gain 112 pounds and still be preferred with them. These are typically they're unisex, so it doesn't matter. Let's say average. What's the average height of most women? 5'3", 5'5".
Down here it's 5 foot.
Well, okay. Well, so 5 foot. I mean, look at this, man. That's a little fire plug right there. 5 foot, 240.
Yeah.
And if you look at Mutual of Omaha, that's pretty liberal too, man. 5 foot. You can't be any thinner than 85 pounds, but to get level, you can be 226. Graded is 244. That's pretty generous for someone. I would say most women that are in the 5 foot range are probably no heavier than a buck and a half, at the heaviest. So 225 for someone who's 5 foot, man, that's pretty chubby right there.
Yep. And then one thing I'll say is that I also have, and it's not on the slide here, but I also have Joe's cheat sheet in my folder. Now, Joe's is a multiple page. That's why we're not showing it up here, but I also have Joe's. Now, Joe's cheat sheet that you find on the Senior Solution website is much more in depth than this one here. So I typically use that for scenarios where maybe it's one of those uncommon health issues. I'm going to go to Joe's cheat sheet and just get a thorough breakdown on what I need to do. So that's how I have my Padfolio. So guys, I walk in basically with 3 things. I have the Padfolio, and then I have a clipboard. So Joe, if you want to go to the next slide.
Is that your clipboard, Jimmy?
Well, I don't use that one. I use one little, it doesn't have that bulk. It's got that little thin clip on it. But anyway, on my clipboard, I have a copy of their lead on top. That's the first thing I have on top. Then I have the needs analysis document. So Joe, if you want to kind of highlight that. And so that's where
this one right here, the family needs analysis.
Yep.
Asset. Okay. Also known, guys, as the asset gathering form.
Yep. So I'm going to ask questions as you listen to in previous start to finish how to do that. So, but there's the asset gathering form. And then I have the 3 option quote under that. And then on the bottom, I have the client data sheet. Okay. And so on the clipboard, I'm showing them, the lead card. We're having a conversation about that. Then I'm going through the needs analysis. Then of course I'm doing the 3 option quote. And when I write them up and I have an application, before I leave, I write this information down for them. And the reason why I like to use this document is I tell them, and this is a key reminder for all the guarantees that we talked about. And I just read it. Your premiums guaranteed never to increase. Your benefits guaranteed never to decrease. Your coverage will never end as long as the premiums are paid. This is a whole life policy and it will accumulate cash value. And you'll receive your policy within the next 14 days. If you have any questions, call me, your agent. And I tell them, to keep that with their folder. And then that way, if, let's say, for example, you're talking with a senior, maybe you're talking to somebody that's in their 70s or maybe possibly even early 80s, and their kids come by the house and they're like, well, Mom, Dad, what did you do? What is this all about? So then they can pull out that client data sheet and show them, and at least it gives those bullet points. And this will really help you because it kind of sells it to those people that are just kind of reviewing the paperwork. But it also gives them an idea of when their draft date is. So like I remind them, okay, remember, we're going to set this up to draft on this day. And they're like, okay, and this is the amount. So that's on the clipboard. We don't have a slide for it, but the last thing that I'm taking in with me is the pre-sale folder. So, you learned a lot about that last week, but so I have the pre-sale folder with me, my Padfolio and my clipboard, and that's what I'm using on the presentation. So then let's talk about organizing your day. Joe talked about leads. So if you want to go to the lead box, Joe. Boom, there's Jimmy's lead box. I keep this in my car. This goes in the front seat when I'm out and about. Okay. And so and I'll just walk you through this. So the very first tab says fresh leads. If you're on a reoccurring order, right, you're getting, let's just say you're getting 20 leads a week. You're going to get those 20 fresh leads and you're going to put them right there in the front. Those are your freshest, newest leads. You always work your freshest, newest leads first. Okay. So if you have any leftover leads from the previous week that you haven't got to, and you got a new batch of leads, work your new batch of leads first. Okay, I'm just telling you, right? But let's just assume that you got 20 leads in this week and you worked them, right? You called them, you door knocked them. Let's say it's Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there, and you've already worked through that list a couple of times. And let's say there's a handful, maybe you got 5, 6 that you were never able to reach, okay? Then I'm going to move those to the zip codes. So those are zip codes. So I'm just going to plug them into the zip code. By the way, I have like a box for Houston and all over. So, I mean, this is my San Antonio box, right? So I put them in by zip code. So if, for example, let's say it's Wednesday and I've already got through the 20 that I received this week, I still got a couple of selling days left. I can go to my box and let's say I'm in zip code 78201. Well, I can go to that zip code, pull out the lead that I have not gotten resolution on and work those leads in that zip code. Or let's say I'm out in the field and I'm in 78201 working a new fresh lead, but maybe I have a cancellation on an appointment. I get no-showed or something, and I'm in the same area. My next appointment, I got a couple of hours on my hand. Well, I'm just going to grab those leads that are in that zip code and go knock on some doors so I can stay in the same area. So I'm, just kind of utilizing my time. If, for example, sometimes leads don't come in, right away. Sometimes you might have a delay. Maybe you worked all your leads from last week and you haven't got the fresh ones yet. Well, now you can just go back in and work your zip codes. So you can get neighboring zip codes and go rework. You know, you want to stay busy. Joe talked about uh, prospecting is the key to success, and it is. Well, this is a way to stay organized to keep you busy because you always have leads to work. So I can tell you this, I just looked at my inventory. In the last 4 years, I still have over 2,300 unresolved leads. Can you imagine that, Joe?
Yeah, I can.
So unresolved leads I've tried, to get a hold of. So I mean, I have a ton of leads, man. They're all over the place. I was down in Corpus earlier this week. I had leads from 4 weeks ago I was working on, trying to get those resolved. So, but that's how I organize my leads. Obviously, you can see on my tab if I have an appointment, I'm gonna plug the appointments there so I can easily grab them. Um, then I have follow up. Let's say you have a sit. I don't really believe in B backs, but let's just say, for example, I had something that was kind of extraordinary that I need to follow up on. I'm gonna stick it in there. And then I have my dead file way in the back, Bear Dead, Bears for Bear County. And then I keep my extra pre-sale folders right there in the back. Those are already ready to go. I already got the filler information in it, and I can just go with that. Um, Lead stack, I use that for, like, let's say I get a bunch of leads. Maybe I bought a bunch of overflows, or maybe I bought a bunch of B leads or something. Maybe I have 100, 200 leads. Um, I'm going to put them in the lead stack and sort them out, and put the ones I'm going to work on in the fresh leads first. But that's how I do the lead stack. So that's my box. I can tell you, Richard Luna, uses this system as well. It works. I first started off with a much smaller box, but as you grow and you buy more leads and more leads, you have more zip codes. So then, I just kind of grew into this box right here. Um, then I guess let's go on to the next slide, unless you want to add to that, Joe.
Well, I do want to add a couple of things, guys. Using a lead box or some type of lead organized system is really brilliant, and it's going to be critical for your success. I've used a system that's very similar to what Jimmy's using, but for me, it's not broken down in zip code because Jimmy's working in Bear County. That's San Antonio, guys. So just keep this in mind. You may not be working in a county that's so big. As an example, when I work Kane County, as an example, Kane County is a county. It's Kane County, Illinois. It's made up of a bunch of little small villages or towns. So you can do the same thing, but instead of putting zip codes, you just put the name of the town. Because you may have a town that only has a population of 10,000, another one has 20,000. So it's basically the same thing, but it's just not broken down into zip code. When you're in a big metropolitan area like San Antonio, or if you were in Chicago, like Cook County, as an example, when I used to work in Cook County, I'd have my leads broken down by zip code. When I work out more in the rural area, it wasn't by zip code, but by the name of the town, because typically some of these smaller towns, they're only one zip code anyway. Okay. The other thing too, I just want to mention is that what's brilliant about having a box like this is that when you get your fresh leads in, remember they're not necessarily always going to be in the same zip code. So when you're going out, as an example, if you got a fresh lead and it's in that zip code 78201, while you're out there door knocking and prospecting, why not go ahead and dip in to 78201, grab some of those leads out, blend those in, and go ahead and door knock those. So every time you go back to those zip codes, you can very easily reach into your file, and it's like you got fresh leads. Jimmy's point is that all these files that you see, these are all unresolved leads. So treat them like fresh leads. And if you develop a system like this, guys, you'll never you'll never run out of leads as long as you have new leads coming in. You keep working them until they're dead. And that goes back to what we said about prospecting, prospecting, prospecting. Man, you got to be a master prospector, and it helps if you have a system. If you're organized while you're doing your prospecting, it certainly helps.
Hey,
Um,
Joe, I want to tell a quick story. This was about maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago. There was a lady that I got kind of out in the sticks, right? Kind of, it was out in the country, is ways out of the city, but still in the county. And I remember, I'm going to say about 3.5 years ago, going out there for the first time. And, she did live in the country and like, on some acreage property. And so the front gate was closed and the house was, I don't know, probably 300 yards away from the front, right? So, I mean, I had no access to it. So I left a tag on the gate and, no one ever called me. Next time I was way out there, I tagged it and there was not a phone number to call, right? So I didn't have a number. But from time to time, whenever I was in that area, I'd go in my lead box and pull it up. Well, about 4 months ago, I was out in that zip code again, and I went through the box, found it, and I had been there a few times already. I already knew how to get there without looking at the lead box, but I wanted to make sure I had the lead. And this time I went and the gate was open and the car was in the driveway. And I was like, oh my God, right? So I walked all the way up to the house. It was a long walk. Walked all the way up to the house and I knocked on the door and nobody answered. The windows were open. So I went and I knocked on the window and the lady heard me and she came and I talked to her and I said, I've left you these tags and no one ever called me. And she goes, oh yeah, every now and then I get this tag. Um, but I thought it was a joke. She goes, I didn't take it serious. I go, oh, well, but I'm here. I go, it's for real, right? What is it? So I tell her. To make a long story short, I finally was able to present to her and wrote her up. And it was literally like 3 years after I first got the lead. So, I mean, all you got to do is just keep until you get resolution, right? You just got to keep plugging away. So, I mean, that was kind of a cool story. But I make sales like this all the time, maybe not quite that long, but it might be a few months later or something like that. I finally catch it. So,
Yeah, and that's a great story, dude. And I've had similar stories as well. But just as a caveat to that, guys, we're not advocating that you don't take fresh leads. Okay, this is an addition to. So having a system like this, but at the same time, we're getting fresh leads in every single week. But you're not going to resolve every lead that you get in. And you get 20 leads in, you probably will resolve 60, 70% of those leads. If you're working them, you'll resolve 60 to 70% of them the first week that you get them, which means you're going to have 20 to 30% that are going to go unresolved. So eventually you're going to accumulate a pretty nice stack of leads. But keep in mind, we're never advocating that you ever stop your recurring order. You got to keep the recurring order, the fresh leads always coming in. And guys, you can do the same thing too. You can create your Facebook leads and your telemarketing leads is print those out, have like a sheet of paper, and you can incorporate those right into your direct mail leads as well. And that's a good way to go back and be able to work those. All right, Jim, you want me to go to the next box now?
yeah, let's go to the next box.
Okay, that's a big box.
Yep. I don't see
All right.
anything changing.
Nope, I had it on pause. There you go.
Okay. All
Sorry about
right,
that.
here we go. So this right here is what I call my mobile office. So that's a bigger box. And this is where I keep mainly all my apps. And so there in the front are the things that I go to fill my pre-sale folder, right? And then after that are the apps. So I have the Living Promise apps. Now I used to have this sorted, like I had the apps, and then I had the what do you call it, the brochure separate. But now I just put them all in one folder. It just makes it easier to get to. So I have, the Living Promise app, and then I have the Transamerica. I have them at 0 to 44, 45 to 85, and let me see here. I have the Plan Right, which is Foresters. I have the Simple Final Expense, which is Liberty Bankers. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm kind of moving around here. My son is on spring break, so he's here with me, and he keeps stepping on my cord. My computer's gonna cut off. So okay, here we go. So I'm set up right.
No worries, man. Take your time, buddy.
And then I have, this box really and truly is primarily all final expense, and then the children's app, the GULE, which is a simplified issue, the accidental death, and then in the back I have a couple of slots for like the Fidelity and Guarantee Safe Income Plus or the Performance Pro. Actually, those are annuities. And then in the back, I have the Senior Solution pre-sale folders, and then I have some Mutual of Omaha folders, the blue ones. And so typically what I do is that, like, if I'm with somebody and I have their policy, sometimes they mail it to me, or maybe I go do a policy review with somebody. I like to put their Mutual of Omaha policy in one of those folders, because the ones that they receive is not an actual folder. It's just kind of like, I don't know, like a hard cardboard paper that's folded in half, and there's no pockets or anything to hold the papers. So I usually try to place it in a nice Mutual of Omaha folder. If I'm selling a Mutual of Omaha product, I might go ahead and just swap out my Senior Solution folder with the MU folder, and then that way I save the Senior Solution folder, and because those MU folders are free. That's really about it. But I keep this in the trunk, and so I always have apps with me, and that's just how I keep it organized. I just put everything in there. I also have like the term brochures with Mutual of Omaha, but I used to have a very organized box for every single app, and it was just like too cumbersome. Now I just basically keep all my final expense and simplified issue. Anything that is non-med, I will keep in this box. Joe, do you have any questions for me, or?
No, this is a great way to do it, guys. I mean, this is very, very similar to the way I have mine set up. You can buy these boxes, or you can do the crates. They have like the smaller crates. Maybe if you're not, depending on how many carriers you're contracted with or what you want to take it out, maybe you use a crate instead of a big box like this, or maybe you use two crates instead of a box. But definitely get organized, man. These are great tools, great things for you guys to be organized with. Having the system of organization is certainly important. And the one thing I just want to go back, and let me go back to the next screen here. Okay, this is the screenshot here with the lead file. This is probably the most important thing for you to be organized on, is to create this this lead file system, so you have leads organized. Because most of us typically are working in geographically kind of the same area. If you're doing areas, if you're hitting multiple areas, you can use the same box, but you'd want to kind of separate it. So back when I was running in 2 different states, I was running leads in Northwest Indiana. I was also running leads in Illinois, 2 different states. Would make sure I actually at that time I had 2 portfolios because I didn't want to mix up my Indiana apps with my Illinois apps. Very easily be done. But I basically had two lead boxes kind of set up, one for Illinois, one for Indiana to keep those um, organized, but keep them separate at the same time. But that's really it, man. I think this has been a great call and really get some insight, Jimmy, on how to be a little bit more organized and really. I mean, these pictures are great where agents can actually see what it looks like. And this one with your leads, that looks like a crate? Is that a box or a crate?
It's a plastic box, kind of like shaped like a crate. I'll tell you
Oh,
this. I
got
mean,
it. Okay.
my personal experience with crates is that they're too light and they flip over in the trunk. So that's why I got that big box. It's weighted down. I don't have that problem with it flipping over anymore.
Yeah, with it
Um,
being longer, like elongated too, less likely
yeah.
to flip over.
And then the other thing I was going to say, as opposed to, and I think some of you guys might appreciate this or might have a chuckle, but before I got organized, I had the boxes that the apps were shipped in all over my trunk, inside my car. I mean, if I needed apps, I'd be opening up boxes. I was trying to sort through boxes, trying to get apps, trying to get brochures. It was a mess. And then I saw an agent car. It cracked me up because he literally on the inside of his car had apps in his back. What do you call that? Like where the window is, like the back. Kind of like a dashboard, but on the rear. you know?
Yeah, the rear deck cover or whatever you call it.
Yeah, his apps up there, apps on his seats, apps on his actual dashboard, like and I'm talking about blank apps. He's just trying like all disorganized. Like, dude, you got to get organized, right? So, if your car looks like that, it's a hot mess. Do this on a Sunday, by the way. Don't do this. Don't get organized during prospecting time in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week. You do this on a Sunday. So anyway, that's my suggestion to you guys.
All right, dude. Great call, Jimmy. Thanks for all your hard work of putting this together.
All righty. Well, y'all have a good one. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care. Adios.
Bye bye.